Hi, I'm Shalini, and this is our micro module on regaining work capacity when you're going through traumatic grief. So you can see there's a continuum. There are lots of different mannerisms of grief that we unfortunately experience. What we're looking at in this micro module is traumatic grief. So this traumatic grief, this whole module, we've divided into 5 smaller modules, and each of them are subdivided into further smaller modules so that you have bite-sized pieces of information that you can easily consume and use for you to regain your work capacity when you're going through grief. So the first one is just basic body science, basic science, whole person science is what I'd like to call it. It's body, mind, and spirit. I think it's important that we are integrated as a human being. What we think and what we feel is integrated, and what we sense, all of it is integrated. So this is really how do you go through grief as a person, as a whole person, traumatic grief. Then the second part is work capacity. How does traumatic grief affect your ability to think, decide, plan, lead, or other things you have to carry out at work? My slides are behind me, so I'll be looking away to look at the slides from time to time. So just that's why I'm looking away. Then the third part is how is your traumatic grief affecting your work right now? Here it is a more interactive part. We will review what you're facing at work. You will be working on it, and you will have resources to help you work through that. Then the next part is immediate grounding techniques. Once you recognize how traumatic grief is affecting you at work, these are grounding techniques that you can use at work to regain your work capacity, to help you start thinking, and also to come back to where your window of tolerance. Again, you will understand what the window of tolerance is in the next few lessons. It's very simple, so don't worry about new words that you're hearing here. Then the next one is how to regain your work capacity. So while the grounding techniques will help you think again, this will help you the direction in which you can think to regain your work capacity, so that you are not you are just able to systematically regain your capacity immediately and towards the long term. This micro module has 4 different lessons, so we're going to look at the first lesson now. This first part is just the basic biology, the first part of the basic biology. The goal here for all 4 of these little micro parts is to easily understand what happens within you when you're enduring traumatic grief. So it is simplified science. Our focus is on your work and your leadership capacity along with organizational health. So just remember, this is very simplified science. Let's begin by defining traumatic grief. Traumatic grief is the death of someone you love, and along with their death you have experienced trauma. So their so the loss of this person brought trauma into your life, the manner in which you lost them. So you're left with traumatic grief. So here we will look at how we bond to help us understand why we are feeling this traumatic grief. Then we look at basic neuroscience and neurobiology. Then we look at the concept of polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges, and then we will look at the concept of window of tolerance by Dan Siegel. Don't worry about these terms if you don't know them. They are very simple concepts, and when we come to that part, you will easily understand it. So this session, these 2 parts are about grief, and then this part about the window of tolerance and the polyvagal theory is on trauma. So please hear me. You are going through more than grief, and you are going through more than trauma. There are people who go through grief, but they don't have trauma attached to it. There are people who go through trauma, but they don't have grief attached to it. But you are going through 2 very different, very strong, emotionally draining events. Trauma and grief. This is 2 different biological systems that are activated in your body at the same time. And what you're experiencing is not easy. So we will start with how we bond, because this is important to understand why you're feeling what you're feeling now. We bond because we love. And the more we love someone, the more grief we feel when they pass away. And love coupled with bonding, when we bond with them, so love stimulates bonding. Love in action is really, it stimulates bonding. And so there are three things that are really key for this. There are many things, but I'm going to focus on these three. The first is safety. When someone helps us feel safe, then we bond with them. And feeling safety, a big part of it is to be seen for who we are. They see us for who we are, they accept us for who we are, and they trust us for who we are. So, and they keep us safe for who we are. So there is no stipulation or game playing or manipulation or any of that. They see us for who we are, they accept us for who we are, and they trust us for who we are. There is no conditional safety. If you do this or if you become this, then I will help you. There's no conditional safety. They just see us for who we are and trust us and keep us safe, and that's mutual in adults. Then the second part is hard times. When there are hard times, they care for us and they show up when we need their support. They care for us and they show up, and they can show care through encouragement, through just being there with us when we're going through hard times, and listening to us, and they show up to do all of that. And this is across any age. Sometimes when you come home from a very difficult day at work, your son or your daughter might come and say, give you a hug and say, would you like a cup of coffee? Shall I fix you coffee? Are you feeling okay? They're showing care. They're showing up and they're showing care. So that increases bonding. And then the third thing is how they support in your dreams and in your purpose. Are they giving to you? Are they giving you in a timely manner? So if they're going to encourage you, and if they're going to say, yes, do it, I'm going to stand by you while you do this, while you pursue your dream, then are they showing up when you're pursuing your dream? Not when you've reached your destination and when you have accomplished your dream, but through the process, through the difficult process, they are there and they're there to support you. That increases bonding. And again, I remember when I set out to pursue my dreams, my daughter stood by me. And it was just wonderful for me. And it deepened the bond that I had with her. So these two things, the safety and the hard times, they really are somebody who's there to help us survive through life, right? And then this dreams is they are there to help us thrive through life. So this is taking care of each other, survival and thriving. This increases the bond that we feel for a person. And I'm talking about just healthy family systems. Then the more we feel all three, the more safe we feel, the more we're there for each other during hard times, the more we support each other in our dreams and purposes, the deeper we bond. So what happens then is the grief that we feel is very different when we have a very healthy bonded relationship, or a good bonded relationship. And it's all a continuum, and there is not one thing that is really good. It really is how you show up for me. So it is for the person to recognize I had a wonderful relationship with them and they're no longer there. You may have had a deep, wonderful bond with this person, and others may not be able to understand you because their bond with the person might have been different. So your grief will show up differently. Then let's look at our story. For the whole series, we're going to have a few adults. We're going to look at adults and children in this traumatic grief. Let's call him Noah. And Noah and Lila. Let's look at Noah and Lila, two adult bonding relationship. So Noah and Lila, when their bonding would have started with a drive to bond, to find a partner, and then they would have had attraction, and then from attraction they would have gone to attachment, and from attachment to stability, and then they would have had Jill and Jack. And when Jill and Jack came, there is no need for a drive or an attraction. Straight away, what they would have gone to is attachment and stability. That's what happens when we have children. We do not have a drive or an attraction. We straight away jump into attachment and stability. Now, let's just look at the adult relationship for a minute. So the drive happens when we enter our teenage years and we want to find a partner, we want to find a mate. So it's a normal biological process. Our testosterone and our estrogen is rising, and we are now looking out for someone that we can spend the rest of our lives with. And then we get attracted to somebody, and it's usually an external stimulus that comes in. We see they're beautiful, we hear their voice, and we think they sound good. Something about them is attracting us to them, and our stress levels increase. Our cortisol increases. And so sometimes we find that we're starting to sweat when we're around them. And definitely not a good feeling, but that happens. Or we start stammering when we are around them. So the cortisol is rising. But along with that, what is also happening is, when you're stressed, you don't want to do that. But here, along with that, what is happening is our reward pursuit, our dopamine and our adrenaline is also rising. The dopamine is a hormone that helps us to pursue something. And it surges out to motivate us to pursue. And once the pursuit is complete, then the dopamine falls down once we get what we want. So our dopamine is rising to motivate us to pursue this person. Our adrenaline is rising so that we can pursue this person. Our cortisol is rising. So all of this is rising with attraction. And now if attraction is mutual, then we come back to attachment. Both have just entered into a relationship, and now it's a completely different set of hormones that are there. It's oxytocin, primarily for the woman. It allows you to feel attached, to bond with the person, to feel care, to feel love, oxytocin. And then vasopressin, that's more for the man. It's more territorial, protective. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to take care of you. So both oxytocin and vasopressin are increasing. And that then comes into a stable rhythm. Noah has a hard day at work, and he can look forward to talking to Lila about it when he comes home. And so his dopamine is rising even when he has all of that stress at work, when he thinks about Lila and coming home and talking to her about work. And so this is a very stable, steady bonding that starts to happen, and it's a deeper bonding with oxytocin and vasopressin, and yes, like I said, dopamine when you're longing for your spouse to come back home. And then comes Jill and Jack, right? So with Jill and Jack, it's just oxytocin and vasopressin right from the time we know that they're there. Noah would have become territorial, protective. Lila would have had all of these oxytocins rising and bonding, and it's for both of them, but it's just in a different proportion. And so there is the bonding. Now we have grandpa and grandma coming into the picture. So the whole family system has been feeling safe and have been there for each other through hard times. They're there supporting each other's dreams or purposes. And so it's a generational bonding that we are now starting to see. And this is important because it actually has an effect on our gene expressions, which we will see in the next lesson. But this is what makes grief really hard. So we love someone and we feel grief. Otherwise, we feel anger when the person dies and if they have harmed us. And, in a family system, there is also this desire for love. So that's a different grief that we'll talk about at a different time. But here in this healthy family system, the love that we have had for each other, that impacts the grief that we feel. The bond that we shared with each other impacts the grief that we feel. And then how safe did they make us feel? It impacts the grief that we feel. How they showed up in hard times, it impacts, again, the grief. And then the dreams, how they were there. So the main thing is really the bond that we have and the love that we had for each other. So we are coming to an end of this lesson here. But in the next lesson, we're going to look a little bit more why this is harder still, because in healthy systems, you have genes that express themselves when you bond. And this is something that is key to why you're feeling the grief that you're feeling. And it is not just between adult relationships. You have genes, your genes start to express themselves differently when you fall in love with your spouse or your partner and your child. And then we also have, we'll also look at how we store information. the cues that tell us how to behave, and then the maps that tell us. This is a fantastic, amazing concept that I learned from Mary Frances O'Connor, and I think it really will help you to understand why you are feeling what you're feeling. And then again, we will have our family there working with us on how we store maps and how we navigate our world, how we create maps. And then we will also look at what happens with separation and with time, and our grandparents will be there to help us learn that. So in the next lesson, we will look at all of this, and I hope to see you there. And then we will move into the trauma part. But this grief part is really important, because that is why you're feeling things so intensely. This is an amazing bond that you shared. This is a loving bond that you shared. And to understand that, it's important, because it is for a reason that you're feeling the grief that you're feeling. And I'll see you in the next micro lesson. Until then, goodbye.